This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Prophet Ezekiel makes a very clear point that whether a prophet comes along and is received or not, when a prophet comes along, people know it. So when a prophet comes along and gives a message, people can humble themselves, and they can listen, and they can obey, or they can, in a variety of ways, stop up their ears and refuse to listen. However, either way, they will know that God has somehow been among them. And that's exactly what happens to Jesus today. It's at the beginning of his ministry, or near the beginning of his ministry. He is at home in Nazareth. And it's Sabbath. He's picked up, he has read, he has preached, and the people in his hometown were astounded. They were blown away by what he had to say and how he said it, the power he had. Now, today's gospel doesn't say it, but others do. It says in other places that they were amazed because he taught unlike the others, the scribes and the Pharisees. They knew that there was something special and holy and sacred about what this man had to say to them. So now, knowing that something special is in their midst, they have a decision to make. Whether they're going to listen and to hear and humble themselves to what the prophet has to say, or whether they're going to stop up their ears. Today, they choose to stop up their ears. And how they go about silencing this prophet is they say, "Oh my gosh, don't you remember when he was a kid with a runny nose? Carpenter? The son of Mary." Now, that may not sound odd to our ears, but in a patriarchal society, if you say the son of Mary, you are in essence saying he has no father. You are making a pejorative statement. So Jesus has come in their midst, and Jesus has spoken to them in a way that's powerful and different than anyone they'd heard. And they immediately go to, this was the rotten kid that we grew up with. This was the carpenter. This is the son with a background that we're not really sure about. And in doing so, they stop up their ears. And they refuse to believe. And what happens is the power of Jesus' message is quelled. Says Jesus could not do work among them. Yes, he did touch a couple of people and heal a couple of people, but basically, they entered into the sin of despise. And their sin of despise cuts off the good news that was at work among them. Now, as God would have it, because God always manages, the rejection at Nazareth becomes the beginning of the mission outward. So instead of one man with 12 following him speaking in Nazareth, Jesus begins sending the disciples out 2 by 2 into the countryside. Now, as Jesus sends them out, he does so with some very particular restrictions, shall we say. You're not going to take money, and you're not going to take extra food or tools with you. You're going to go out. You're going to go out, and you are going to trust that God is going to provide. Provide through the town, the village, the people that you are among. It's not unlike what St. Paul is talking about today. The work we do isn't about going out with strength and power. You know, these are baby disciples. They're not very astute by the time we get to the end of the gospel. And this is the beginning of the gospel, so this is certainly not about how much knowledge they have or how strong of believers they are. This is absolutely about their weakness and their vulnerability, and God taking that and using that however God will. I'm not sure how many among us would consider ourselves missionaries. However, the way we do worship every week is absolutely about being missionaries. We are gathered into this place to be fed with word and with sacrament, and then we are sent. Now, each one of us is sent to a different mission field. Jobs, homes, neighborhoods, families. But each one of us is called and fed in order to go out there and live out what we've heard, what we've received. Now, on this day, as we get to the end of worship, we are really going to send out 12 missionaries this week. The 12 folks, 2 of them are already on their way, so we're going to bless them in absentia. 12 of us are on our way to Detroit, Michigan for the 2015 ELCA Youth Gathering. Now, youth gatherings have been going on almost since the beginning of time. Many folks here have either participated or assisted in them along the way. 6 years ago, shortly after Katrina, the ELCA saw that the need was to go to New Orleans. And so 6 years ago, that is where we went. And 30,000 students, plus all the teachers and mentors and the people that were putting on the program, flooded into New Orleans. Certainly with money for hotels and food and all that, and also to serve in that community. And then the ELCA thought it would be fun 3 years later to go back and to see how much progress had been made and to continue to encourage them to rebuild. And about that same time, the ELCA began a conversation with the government in Detroit, Michigan. And when the ELCA first went to Michigan and said, we want to bring the youth gathering here, we want to bring about 30,000 students and all these people and fill your hotels and use your facilities and your restaurants and to serve your city however you want your city served, the city of Detroit said, they won't come here. Our history is too dark, and this point in our history and who we are and all of our problems, they won't come here. And we are. It's been really fun to spend some time with the kids and talking about what it's like to be a part of a church that goes into those dark and hard places, to be the hands and the feet and the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, of the 12 of us who are going, Keith and Amy have a pretty clear idea of what their job is. And for the other 10 of us, we really have little to no idea what our job is going to be, what that experience is going to look like. Because you see, it's not about our strengths. It's not about us being equipped to go do whatever it is. It's about our weaknesses. And in our weakness, we have a God who comes alongside of us to give us the courage and the vision, the obedience to follow where he will lead. So brothers and sisters, we really are all missionaries. And those mission fields are all over the place in all sorts of ways. But the truth remains that when we go as a fed people, and as a led people, and as a strong people. because we go with a God who is in front of us and behind us and alongside of us and within us. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Well, this light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine every day.